So I sent it to Takesha, Temi, Zahir, Madison, Sid,
So maybe what we do, maybe Stephanie, if you want to, since you got the questions, maybe since we're recording, we can just go through the questions while we have Sanya, and then we can share the recording.
That sounds good. Yeah, for some reason I'm
We're having
unable
some issues.
email to the kids. I don't know why they're not receiving my emails.
Oh,
So
yeah, no worries. You got the. Thank you so much, Mrs. Richards Ross, for joining us again. Go Horns, University of Texas, all day, every day. So we're gonna pass the microphone to Coach Coop and Coach Stephanie. They have some of the students' questions, so we can close out the 10 minutes and everything. Go ahead, Coach Stephanie.
no problem. So the next question, I know we were talking about the time off and coming back, but the next question was about diet. And I know you started talking about food a little bit, but
yeah.
The question was, how does it affect your running?
Yeah, I mean, your diet is everything. You know, my coach always says, no matter how great you work out, you can still out eat a great workout, right? So if you go home and you're putting in poor nutrition into your body, then it's just going to be, you know, it's going to be counterproductive. And so for me, I always just kept a really clean diet. I never counted calories. I wasn't like that. I was always important to me to have a colorful diet. And what was very helpful for me was I would juice my fruits and vegetables. So just to make sure I was getting in enough veggies and fruits, I was very fortunate my dad would help me to juice fruits and vegetables. I can't talk about water and it sounds really simple. And our parents tell us, just drink some water, but it is vital to being able to flush toxins and to help with muscle soreness and recovery. Not a lot of fried foods. I didn't really eat many fried foods. I'd have a cheat day on Saturday and Sunday where I'd have pizza or French fries. I think it's important to reward yourself, but obviously in moderation. So a cheat meal, not the whole day. And outside of that, just making sure you're eating, you know, lean protein. So whether that's through chicken, through fish with salmon, or if you eat beef, for dinner meals and stuff in the morning, I would have like egg whites and fruits and yogurt. On race days, in the mornings, I may add some carbs to kind of carry me throughout the day. But I just think it's just ultimately very important to have a very balanced diet, lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of water, you know, coupled, of course, with your rest and everything else that you're doing. And I think that's the rest of success.
Okay, thank you very much. The next two questions kind of go together. One was, how did you find out the 400 was your race? And another athlete asked, have you run anything else besides the 400?
Yes, a great question. So I actually when I started competing, I was 7 in Jamaica. And I actually started out doing the short sprints. I did the 100 and 200 mainly. And I'll never forget, in high school, my dad said, hey, I think you should start running some 400s and doing 400s to get better at the short sprints. And then my senior year, I broke the national record in the 200 and 400 in the high school record that's still 6.69. And I was like, the 400 chose me. I didn't choose the 400. But, you know, I then fell in love with the race because I think it really is a magical race when you are able to put it together well. And so I did the 200 and 400 for the majority of my career. And in high school too, you know, in high school, I actually did the 100, 200, 400 high jump and long jump throughout most of my career at St. Thomas Aquinas High in Florida. And I thought it helped doing some of the jumping, just helped to kind of build my muscles. And I think it prepared me better to be a sprinter. So, you know, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing if you're able to do multiple events or multiple sports early in your career. But I do think it's important for you to start to really narrow your focus as you become a junior and a senior, because it's just extremely competitive. So you want to make giving all of your energy to your best event.
Thank you. Then we had these kind of went together also. One was talking about what do you do when you get a side cramp, but then how have you had any injuries and how have you dealt with those injuries?
Yeah, you know, in my career, I had really 2 tough injuries. One, my junior year in high school, I pulled my hamstring muscle. And then in 2010, I had a really bad quad pull. And, I think that especially when you're young, recovering from injuries, most injuries, it will happen over time. You take the time off, get with a physical therapist, do all the training and recovery, and usually your body really bounces back well. I think the hard part of injury that few people talk about is the mental residue that it leaves behind, that fear of pushing again because you know what it feels like for a muscle to tear. And it's really can be really daunting. And so I think if possible, and if you can get with a sports psychologist early in your career, I think it's a great thing to do. I started a little bit later in my career, and I wish I would have started in high school, because I think as much as you have a coach on the track or in the weight room to help you to pull out the best in you, a mind coach can also help to pull out the best in you when it's time for competition or when you're going through something challenging. I think it's just important that as you're rehabbing the body, you're also rehabbing the mind. And some of the things you can do, even if you're not with a sports psychologist, is visualizing yourself back at your best days. So if you have video of when you ran your fastest race, you're watching those videos all the time. And, you could sit there for 15, 20 minutes, just close your eyes and envision what that felt like. Envision yourself back running at that speed. When the mind remembers it, the body follows. So I think it's important to rehab the mind, create a vision board. That was one of the things that I did every single year that I think paid huge dividends for me, was creating a vision board, putting my goals on this board. And whether I looked at it every day or just in my mind, because I worked so hard on it, it really held me accountable and helped me to remember why I was doing what I was doing. And so I think there are lots of things you can do to really just get your mind ready after an injury that are equally as important as everything you'll be doing to rehab that muscle, going to rehab, getting light weight on it and finally getting it back up to full strength. I think those things go hand in hand.
Thank you. And it looks like the last question I have right now kind of relates to that, is what kind of mental drills do you do to keep yourself focused on yourself and not others in a race?
Yeah, so, that's a little bit of what I just shared. So I think ultimately the biggest mental secret is visualizing yourself crossing the finish line first, how you want to execute the race. So that way your body is prepared to use in its mind's eye. I think it's important to, when you get on the track, to throw strategy when somebody else starts to do something differently. I think you need to be so honed in and focused on just your and the finish line that you don't get distracted by what other people are doing. I think that you also have to learn yourself as a competitor. And I think this is a very difficult time that young people are in with social media and all of these things that can be very distracting. And so if you're one of those athletes who can't handle the distractions of hearing what people have to say or just whatever it is, you have to be really disciplined about, not using your phone or taking Instagram or Facebook or TikTok off of your phone, when you're at competition or when you're at practice, because all of those things pull energy from your focus on giving your best on the track. And so, I think vision board, writing down your goals, doing visualization, constantly having that positive talk with yourself. One of the other things that I know many of us struggle with, I call monkey chatter, which is just negative thoughts. Like, it said, oh, I lost here last year, or I had an injury, 6 months ago. And one of the things I learned from my sports psychologist, I think is paramount, is whenever the mind starts to tell truth, you don't tell yourself that it didn't happen. Because what happens is the body starts to reject the lie you tell yourself. So like for me, for example, in 2012, yes, I was third in Beijing the year before. And yes, I was having all of these thoughts about, man, I didn't do it last time. Will I do it again? And so when the thought came in, I said, yes, I lost in Beijing, but I am more prepared than I've ever been before. And you keep beating down that negative truth with a positive affirmation until it's so quiet that all you hear is that positive, those positive thoughts in your mind. So, those are some of the tips that I use to get mentally tough, mentally stronger, because it really does boil down to mental toughness at competition.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else have any other questions? Sydney, you're unmuted. I'm not sure if you have a question or not.
Hello, y'all can hear me?
Yep, Tariq, we can hear
Go
you.
right ahead.
Okay. My question is that if you could take away like a lesson, like during your career, life lesson, athletic lesson, what would it be to like provide to us as an athlete and also to can better ourselves as a person as well?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. And I'm sorry, guys, this will be my last question because I'm supposed to be on a 12 o'clock call. So
Oh, yeah,
sorry,
Thank you.
but problem. And I think that's a great way to close it out. I learned a lot of lessons throughout my life. And you know, it's hard to necessarily think of just the one to tell you right now. And I just love where your head is at, the thoughtfulness around the fact that when you're on the track or when you're on the field of play or when you're competing in sports, all of the lessons that you are learning are not just for sports. They do teach you and help you to become better at life. And so I love the way that you frame that question because ultimately that is what you're doing. And I guess what I would say today is that success truly is a journey. It's a process, and you'll realize and you'll find that there's so many joys in the process that are actually sometimes sweeter than the destination. When I think about my journey, I was professional for 13 years. And I was fortunate to stand on top of the podium 4 times at the Olympics and win 5 medals. And those moments mean the world to me because I sacrificed a lot to be able to do that. But when I strip all that stuff away and I think about what I miss the most, it's being with my teammates in the Olympic Village. It's the coaching team and staff that I got to work with that poured so much energy and love in me. And so I would just say, take advantage of every opportunity that you have. Embrace the good and the bad. Beijing was such a hard experience for me, but I truly believe it is the reason that I was able to stand on top of the podium in 2012, and it made that victory so much sweeter. So although you'll have disappointments and they're gonna suck, they're gonna hurt, you're gonna feel like nothing is worse than this moment, you will rebound from those moments, you'll have a story to tell, and you'll be stronger for it. So embrace it all and appreciate the journey as much as you do that final destination or that intermediary destination, right? We set these big goals for our lives, but then there's always something else that we chase. And so, you know, I just wish you guys all the best as you guys continue on your journey. You have great coaches, great people around you who are trying to tap into great resources to support you. So you should be very, very, very appreciative for all of that. And I hope that you guys will watch this Olympics and be inspired. There's so many great, talented athletes that have made this team who I think will inspire you to go on and do the same thing. So I thank you guys so much for having me. I hate I have to kind of jump.
Oh, no. Oh, no, oh, no, 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 no. Thank you so very much. Please, our students would love for you to visit Chicago before the end of the year, if at all possible. That is personally my homework assignment is to, you know, whenever your time permits, because I know you've been to Chicago a few times, the students would love to see you in person, if at all, at some point this fall, you know, if at all possible. So I'll circle back with your team over the weekend and see what works with your schedule.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the invite. I hope we can make that happen. And nice to see all of you. Thank you, Stephanie. Thanks, Coach Coop. And thank you, Stephanie. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, talk to y'all soon.
Bye. Thank you.